Hi guys, and welcome to this episode of the Deep Dive. Before we get started, if you haven't done already, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, because we have new videos going up on our YouTube channel every single day. So make sure you keep up to date. So today's guest on the Deep Dive is no stranger to the Deep Dive. I think we've had him on twice before, and each time I've been blown away by what he's released. And this one in particular, he teased me with on the last Deep Dive. And we'll talk a bit about that in a moment. So anyway, without further ado, let me introduce you to the legendary Mr. Chris Rawlins. Hello, Chris.
That was a good introduction and a half, wasn't it?
How are you,
that
mate?
Was modest. Good to see you. Good to see you. Charming as always, Peter Nardi. Charming as always.
Are you good?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm very good. How are you?
I'm really well. I'm really happy that we've got you back on, and particularly to speak about this product, because you teased me with this when we filmed the last Deep Dive with you.
Yeah.
And you did say to me you were going to have them at Blackpool, and we got set up really quickly. And just when we were setting up, I say we, I don't do the setting up.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure it was all Harry and Jenny setting up.
Yeah, it was, because literally I take out a product, put it on the table, and Jenny goes, "No, don't go there." So I just leave them to
that was
it.
about right.
But I remember seeing you walk in with the boxes and the cases to set up your stand, and I just come straight up going, "Can I buy the first one? No." And you're going, "Yeah, they're still in the case." And I think I just kept coming back and bugging you until you went, "All right, just
yeah, there you go. Just take it. Leave me alone.
get away." But honestly, I mean, I'm a lover of this principle anyway.
Yeah.
I think what you've done with it is phenomenal, and I like to put presentations to everything. I like a story behind everything. If ever you see an effect that we've put out where I've been involved, I tend to sort of just build the story, and usually if it's a mentalism thing, it goes down the same route. It's either, test conditions, this is how they used to do it, or the CIA, or this, that, and the other. So everything about this effect ticked all my boxes. Method-wise, it ticked the boxes. Presentation-wise, the look of the props, absolutely everything. So we're going to show a full performance, but before we do, I'm going to bring you up full screen. Tell us a little bit about it and your thinking behind it.
Yeah, sure. So I have always been interested in drawing duplications, everyone knows that, and I explore all these different ways to achieve those, and I've always been interested in Uri Geller. And in 2003, the CIA released some documents. They declassified them, which means they're available for the public. You can find them on Google. So I read those quite some time ago, and then I was rereading them a couple of years ago maybe, and I made a connection between something they really did in the experiments and a method that we all use a lot. And I thought, great, I should combine those things, and I did, and then it grew into what is Declassified, and it started being something I was doing a lot. And what I realised, I'll be less vague in a second, but what I really realised is that when you do this for people, and I've had this feedback from people that have it already, it's only just gone out to like the people who got it from me, and it's only, it's arriving at Alakazam, this will go out Sunday, won't it? So you will have had it already, but it's kind of only just left my building, it's only just left our house. It's very fresh for everyone, unless you got it at Blackpool. And people are saying to me already, wow, this really stands out from most other off-the-shelf, tricks that you can buy, because it doesn't really feel like a trick. So yeah, it's a great method to really fooling, especially obviously for non-magicians. The prop looks really cool. I'll show you in a second. The story is everything though. So they tested Uri Geller, and you talk about this story, and you can make that play for as long or as short as you like. They can Google all this story if they want. They can check all the facts. It's all real. It all really happened.
Yeah.
And one of the things they did that was amazing was they put him in an isolation booth, and they chose a random word, I'll tell you about that in a sec, and then they drew it. So Geller was in a separate room. They ended up drawing. I actually have the document here. Hang on. They drew some grapes. Can you see that? That was what the scientists, the testers at the CIA drew. Geller was in a different room, and he was able to draw grapes, but he was able to draw exactly the same number of grapes from a different room. Wow. Crazy story. So there's all these different iterations of these tests. So I tell this story, and I actually say that, hey, look, I recently acquired something from eBay. It's kind of a special thing that I own, and I don't really collect much stuff, but this I think is really interesting. This apparently belonged to one of the original testing team from the 1973 tests on Uri Geller in California. And I got it on eBay. I'm not sure if it's a real one or not, but it looks pretty battered. And then I kind of go into the trick. So this is what it is. It's a nice looking document.
Yeah.
Hand stamped by me. Took a long time to stamp all of those. It's precision made. So we'll talk vaguely, but a little more specific in a second with method. But let me read out this, right? When I read this, and I was already doing all these elements of the trick separately, it all came together very quick. And I started doing it, and I was like, holy hell, this is strong. So
and
this is
real.
Is
true. This is true.
This is the most amazing thing. All I've done here is take a method we all know and connect it with a real thing in the world that really happened, and then make a beautiful prop that helps you tell the story and has the method built in, right? So this really happened. Because when you think about, like, okay, they drew in a different room, how did they pick that picture? What did they draw on? As magicians, we think about how it was possible, right? Here's how they did it in terms of the standard, the certain stuff. So the 2 drawings used in this experiment were selected by randomly opening a large college dictionary and selecting the first word that could reasonably be drawn. So when I perform it, I have them read out that bit from the front of the document. And I was thinking about this. I thought, oh my God, I already have a specially made dictionary, definitive, if I could use that. And then I had this moment of like, wow, I could just gaff the document. And then I have this efficient little package that looks nice, tells a great story. And this can be the method as well. So what I've done is build into this real document that really is a declassified CIA document that really has Geller's drawings in. And I'm doing this with a camera I'm not used to using. It's just on there. There you go. So you flick through, there's lots of text, there's Geller's drawings, tell the story of the grapes. You show all of these, like, people are super fascinated by this. There's pages full of text as well. And we're showing this, we're talking about it as we go through.
Yeah.
And then I read out that part and say, you know what? Why don't we do that? So now you're in this world, Pete, you'll know this, right? When you frame a trick as like an experiment or something like that, which in this case you are, people just go like, oh, okay. And it doesn't feel like, it doesn't even feel like mind reading. It's like we're doing it, we're going to recreate this experiment almost. And it just feels very different. So you do that, you literally recreate CIA test conditions, and every time you'll know the picture. So it's a method, the core like mechanical method we all know. This thing's been made beautifully to do it all for you. It has more to it than you probably realize. I know you know, people watching if they don't. There's I've added extra things to this that allow it to work in slightly different ways than usual. Probably the only prop that the more like being up against the more battered, it looks more real. So it's kind of nice. But it even tells a story for you. Like if you like doing tricks that have a great story, but you don't, maybe you don't perform all the time because it's for friends and family. And, maybe you want to have this sitting around on your coffee table, and every time you do it, you don't have to remember what you're going to say because you're using this, which has all of the story in it. And like I talk on the instructions about highlighting certain parts and stuff. So it's kind of as self-working as you can get for a piece of mind reading that's so low tech, but also, it's like elegantly simple. I don't want to blow smoke at myself too much, but it's the context I'm really proud of coming up with and connecting those dots,
Yeah, 100%. And it's one of those effects that, like you said, it's perfect to have hanging around the house anyway, because it's an interesting document. If you're into mentalism, mental magic, or any sort of pseudo psychometry or anything to do with this stuff, you can justify having that document. I found it's really interesting. But if you're out performing and you're doing a mentalism act, it's a great intro into it. If you've seen any of the drawing stuff, and I know there are people out there who follow all of that drawing stuff that I share. If you connect the dots, you'll see elements of this everywhere. I use this story a lot for doing drawings anyway. Yeah.
But whenever, even if you do a different method, or I do a whole show with this prop. The story I recreate multiple experiments, and when you do that, it sticks in. This is what I found out from doing just the most basic version of this in its early days. The story lingers in people's heads more than if I say to you, imagine if I could say, here's a piece of paper, get on an aeroplane at Heathrow, draw a picture whilst you're in the sky, land in Manchester, get in an Uber, drive here, and the moment you walk and knock on, you ring the doorbell, I'll call you up and say, are you thinking of a tree? Even though technically that might be impossible, I don't know, this story, I promise you, I've got all these clever ways of doing drawing duplications. This one is the one that people talk about, and then they debate amongst themselves. They start talking about Geller. They think maybe I know how to do it. Maybe I've learned. They see I've got quotes from him on my web. Maybe he's learned from him. I'll tell you a funny story. I got piles of these at home because I've been packing them up to ship out to you. And we had a carpet cleaner around the other day. I forgot. I forgot that these were piled. There's literally a stack of them there like this. Because each one I have to hand finish, right? I do the stamping and then all that stuff. And so this guy was cleaning the carpets in the whole house, but gets into the office and and downstairs. So what do you do? And I said, I'm memory and mind reading. It's hard to explain really, but I'll show you something before you go. So he's interested. That's a weird answer. If I was a carpet cleaner, I'd be like, oh, okay, I'm just going to clean this guy's carpets as quick as possible and leave. And then he must have come in the office, seen to him might have looked like piles of different CIA documents everywhere. And then he left quite quickly. He was done really fast. So we were laughing afterwards that maybe I'm a spy. And maybe I am. Who knows?
Who knows? Well, I'll tell you what, shall we take a look? We've actually got a full performance.
Yeah, man,
so
let's show them
they
that.
can see, Declassified in action, and then we'll come back and we'll speak a little bit more about it. So,
Great.
Let's take a look at this.
I'm going to tell you about something kind of amazing that really happened.
Okay.
And then we will try to recreate an experiment that really did happen just over 50 years ago.
Okay.
Have you heard of a man called Uri Geller? You heard of him?
Oh, yes, the man who bends spoons.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what people know him for. He actually, before he was famous for doing that, built up quite a reputation for knowing pictures that people thought about.
Okay.
And truly, the CIA in 1973 tested him to test his paranormal perceptual abilities, what they called it. What they really did was do all these different versions of a test where someone would think of a thing, usually draw a picture or something, and then he would pick up on what that picture is.
Okay.
And what I have here is, I got it from eBay. It's apparently, it is the declassified document, and you can find this online on Google. And it was declassified 2003, but it's a report of all the testing they did of Uri Geller. And some of the results are pretty special, to be honest. This apparently belonged to one of the original testing team as well, which may or may not be true, but that's what I was told when I bought it. I couldn't not buy it for that
cool,
reason.
Honest,
it's a cool object, but this is very interesting. Look, it says, as a result of Geller's success in this experimental period, we consider, that's the CIA, pretty scary, consider that he has demonstrated his paranormal perceptual ability in a convincing and unambiguous manner.
Fair enough.
Right? So it means he was convincing at least, and unambiguous, which is important. And it goes through it. It talks about, I'll show you my favourite one. This is an isolation booth that they put Uri Geller in. That's obviously not him. It's a lady. It looks very different. What this is, though, it's essentially like a padded room with a locked door with no windows. And I think I had a single light bulb in just like this that was sat here. And they placed him in the room. And the testers, some of them are scientists, some of them just worked at the CIA, they drew an image. And the image they drew was grapes.
Okay.
And from a different room, Uri was able to draw grapes. Okay. And not just that, he was able to draw the same number of grapes.
Oh, okay, that's what it is.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
From a different room. So you go all the way through here. There's lots of text in here too, but there's images that are loosely connected. Sometimes he's very accurate, sometimes less so, more text. Some of them are so kind of crazy accurate that it's surprising and shocking. Sometimes he writes his name on it because he likes people to know that he did it, which is interesting and a little bit funny. And then when I read this, so I was thinking about this, I knew about this before I even had this physical thing. You can get the file online, it's been floating around. I think you can still get it from the CIA website. You can just download the PDF if you're interested to read it.
Fair enough.
And I highlighted this part because it caught my attention. The 2 drawings used in this experiment were selected by randomly opening a large college dictionary, which I didn't bring with me, and selecting the first word which could reasonably be drawn. So we're going to recreate those same test conditions, but you and me sat here right now.
Okay.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is give you this just there on the table. Oh. With your left hand, grab hold of the folder.
Sure.
Good. So I can't see anything now. It's blocked.
Okay. Yeah.
In a moment, with your right hand, Rick, you're going to just lift up somewhere in the middle. Don't flick through, because if you flick through and see all those different pictures and the words, it will confuse the hell out of me. This truly might not work, but if it does, it will be interesting. So you'll just straight up lift up somewhere, look at something and see it, whatever it is. Don't say anything about what it is, and then just close it and then close the folder.
Okay, so first page, pick something.
Yeah, and anywhere you literally lift up anywhere. It's not, don't just open one page up. It's important, you know, it's where you open is your own free choice. Okay. When you've done that, close it down, and then I'll turn back, and then we'll try and, we're literally going to try and do this, okay?
I'm not a good drawer, but we'll see what happens.
You won't have to draw anything. You'll just think of it. You'll try and send me the thought, okay?
Fair enough.
All right, so just lift up somewhere, tell me when you're done.
Okay.
That was silently done, very good. I'm going to move this out the way so it's not even between us, okay? Here's the interesting part. If you open to a page full of text, you can, just like in the experiment, you can think of any one of those words on the page and turn it into a picture. If you open to a picture, just think of that, but you can add color and stuff.
Okay.
Okay, so this is really fair. It's literally the same as the CIA test conditions. We're not in the 70s anymore, but other than that, we're replicating this exactly. Okay. So try and, this will sound crazy, try and send me the thought. Starting with a simple outline.
Okay.
Because you're now seeing this as an image in your head. So as you imagine the outline, this would be. I get something very, very clearly. Say what it is, describe it with your...
It's a... That is, I mean, the moment I saw you do that, I was like, okay, he knows what I've seen. That's really cool. That is amazing. So, I genuinely didn't expect that to happen, I'll be honest with you. I wasn't expecting you to sort of pick out the inside here. I was a little bit scared when I turned, so yeah, I'm honestly kind of lost for words. Well, it turned out to be what you drew from my head, which I'm still not quite getting my head around right now, I'll be honest. Yeah, trying to send the thought to you, I guess, sort of like almost like a little bit of a Zen state of just focusing on one thing and like trying to mentally picture it there. I'm genuinely still confused and speechless about it, to be honest.
That is so neat.
There we are.
So neat.
The cool thing is, right, it really it feels so much like whoever you do it for makes the thought up. So it doesn't just feel like that. One of the big parts I want people to understand when they get this or if they're thinking about it doesn't and shouldn't feel like look at something on some paper and then I know what that is. It feels like, just like in the experiments, they think of something from here as like a starting point to then turn it into a picture in their head. Does that, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and they've just seen the performance. But I've got clever language. There's nice layers built into it that go beyond just the mechanical what it is.
Yeah, and it's really important, I feel, to have a good premise for these sort of things, and this is to me the perfect sort of premise. It's intriguing. They're hooked from the beginning. They're taking part in this experiment. It's really clever. I'm a big fan of your work anyway, but I would say this is one of the best, if not the best thing you've put out. And that's not easy to say because you put out some really, really good stuff. But to me, it's a full, I like things that feel like a performance piece. It's not a, here, look at this. Boom, it's done. This, you could get 8 minutes out of this just talking about,
I'm telling you, man,
the story.
That you're exactly right. It's a long video, the full performance, and I was aware that we're filming it. But when I do this with people and no cameras about, it definitely goes on longer than that 6 minutes or so. It's probably closer to a 10-minute thing because we can look through the document together. They want to ask questions. I actually met Geller a few times, and I wouldn't say I know him, but we're in touch infrequently. So I've got great comments and endorsements from him. So they want to know about him and how it is to meet him, and if I've seen him bend a spoon, and all it just spins off into a whole experience. Instead of just a quick, like you said, a quick trick. So
yeah,
and you know what? I love stuff easy to do. It's so easy.
It's a conversation piece as well, and it's
yeah.
You imagine in a sort of impromptu setting, you're just sitting there wherever it is, you're chatting to someone, they're asking you what you do, you get into this conversation, and then they start asking questions which they are going to do, and you go, all right, let me show you this because this is great, and then you bring this out and say, I've just picked this up off eBay, and straight away you're into this thing, and it's that, I'm a big fan of Nyman. I've been friends with Andy for years. I know you know Andy as well. But the thing I like about a lot of his stuff, and he's caught me out with it so many times, is we'll be talking about something, and before I know it, he's already building up to the effect. And that's the beauty of this sort of thing. You can just start talking it. You can slightly divert the conversation. They're going to start talking about it, and then it's that, hang on, you've got to see this. Boom. And then you bring it out, and now you're straight into an effect which they've sort of looked like they've started, if you know what I mean. They started the conversation on it. Beautiful.
And I'll tell you what, if you do get, for people watching this, if you do get one of these, and even if you don't go out and do shows or do gigs or whatever, if you have this kicking around, I guarantee you people ask about, I think there'd have to be an alien not to. If I came to yours and on the side you had a declassified document in the kitchen or on the coffee table, and it was kind of covered up, but you could just see a bit of the word declassified, I wouldn't be able to not say, what is that? Why do you? Can you tell me about that? Because it's an unusual object, so it already is intriguing before you even do anything. So in that sense, it's interesting as well. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, man. Honestly, it's so much fun to do. And I was kind of in two minds. I know people say this all the time, but I was in two minds about sharing it because it's so, it's kind of a very specific thing. With all of my stuff, I try and cast the net wide so there's a bit of something for everyone. But this, you have to really want to recreate that experiment. But when people try it, the feedback from other magicians so far is just, they're kind of blown away with the response they get from it because it just feels really different. It's cool. Yeah. I love it so much. I'm very happy with how it came out as well. And I'm happy that you like it so much. That's a lot.
It's great. I like to say it's complete.
It's like a perfect little circle, I think. It's just neatly kind of I don't know. I don't like saying, things about my own stuff, really. It feels weird. But I'm very happy with how elegantly simple and easy and natural everything feels. The other thing is, this method I see a lot. And, there are great people out there that make versions of this type of method. I guess really what this has the closest connection to is like a magic colouring book, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of what it's closest to. But I rarely see like a context when I see a lot of people using, pads with things written in and people peek at something. But there's not that often a reason why we're doing that or why that exists or whatever. So it's the context I'm really happy with. And I don't see many things, at least at the moment, that have a real story that fully justifies it literally explains the process. So you're talking about it, you go, hey, actually, we can try that. Why don't we do it? I'll tell you what, just hold on to, like you said, before they realise, they're going, I guess, okay, I'm thinking of something, and they don't even know what's happened,
Yeah.
It's fun.
I was shocked, when I found out that was actually true, that bit on the bottom, because I thought you had added that in to justify, and it makes perfect sense, but to know it's actually true,
it's
you
really,
just go, perfect. It couldn't be more perfect.
I couldn't have been happier when I was rereading it, and I was like, why didn't I see this all those years ago? Because, we're talking, this has been declassified now for nearly 22 years. It's coming up. So it's crazy that it's been floating around, and I'm surprised that no one else has made that connection. And I hadn't either. I read it a few times, and I had printed it out in the past and just stuck it with a bulldog clip, and I'd used it to illustrate. Like the cool thing is, like you were saying about doing it in a show, if you do this in a show, you can just have this. You can have, if you're doing big shows, you stick things like the images up on the screen. And the coolest part about it, that isn't necessary for a lot of tricks, but when you're doing something that's so heavily story-based about a real person, it is nice that they can Google it. And Geller's such a brilliant promoter of his own brand that he does endless interviews about all this. He's the guy who fooled the CIA or convinced the CIA it was real. So there's interviews, there's articles. You can even find the PDF of the document online. So if they really go down a rabbit hole and trying to bust you on it, they're just going to close the circle and be trapped in this loop of an impossible thing to happen.
Well, I'm gonna let you into a little something. So with mine, what I'm trying to do is put together like a little 15-20 minute mentalism act, but with every effect somehow connected to this document. So I talk about the document when I open, and then sort of read something or show something and then do an effect by it. But at the beginning, I talk about this experiment that Uri Geller had. Then at the end, you go, do you know what? Let's just try it. I haven't done it. Let's just try it. Let's do it. And then get them. Then we go into the experiment. So it's there as the opener. This is my reason for the whole performance.
Yeah.
And how I've always wanted to replicate what he did, but it's just never. I haven't found the right person that I feel could actually transmit any sort of information properly. But we'll try a few other things from it, and then at the end, it's like, do you know what? Let's just try it. Let's give it a go.
Great.
Really and that would, I think, that would be great. So, Chris, that brings us to the end of this deep dive.
I know. Look at that. How fast that went.
It's brilliant. It's always a pleasure having you on here, mate, and we can't wait to see what you come up with next.
Oh, there's something great. It's in the pipeline. It'll be here sometime soon. You're pretending like you don't know. I showed you.
Well, I do know because you showed me earlier. So I can't wait. Literally can't wait. Hopefully it will be out before Blackpool. If not, get in before us and empty your suitcases before I get round, so I don't bug you for an hour.
Extra luggage this time. It's all right. You can just take it from Blackpool. There you go.
So, Chris, thanks for joining us, mate.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Cheers, buddy.
See you later, man.
So, guys, that was the legendary Chris Rawlins, and that is Declassified. You can pick that up on our website now, if it's still available. We should also have it in the UK and our US warehouse. To me, it's got absolutely everything. The most important thing to me when I look at getting a trick for myself is the routining behind it. And this is absolutely perfect. Chris has come up with the ideal presentation for the ideal story. And it's incredible. And the fact that it's a true story is brilliant. So go check that out. And before we go, please make sure you check out our weekly vlogs. It gives you a behind the scenes, an entertaining behind the scenes look at life at one of the world's biggest magic dealers, Alakazam Magic. So check it out on our YouTube channel, the Alakazam Vlog. And also, if you haven't done so already, please remember to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell, and you'll be notified every single time we go live right here on our YouTube channel and every time a new video goes up. So until next time, I'm Peter Nardi. Thanks for watching The Deep Dive.